Defense. Defense is a key tool in a confrontation situation to make sure assailants don't get too close to you, and also to help dissuade them from attacking you.
From these videos, you can clearly see how important it is to keep your opponent at a distance. If they close the distance, it's so much harder for you to see techniques coming, and also for you to react in time to protect yourself.
I've seen this technique performed many different ways by many different instructors. Some instructors advocate a thinking about it stance where they can protect themselves, but they're not looking aggressive or offensive in this thinking about it stance, but they can bring their hands up to protect themselves very, very quickly. I've seen some instructors teach this with a square on stance and their hands relatively close. But in Shinku, we've got a very, very specific way of forming our fence, and let me just quickly run through that now. First of all, the top priority in Shinkyu's fence is to make sure our opponent stays at a distance. If I'm standing here like this and Prin was to walk up close to me, there's nothing stopping him from getting in close. If I'm like this, he can still again from here come in close, he can pressure me, he can push me with my feet square as well, but if he pushes me with his body from here, I'm relatively off balance with my weight generally on my heels, but there's no depth to my stance. If he does get in close, and he decides at this point in time to swing a punch at me, from here I'm going to struggle to have the time to block that. So Shinkyu's fence, from here, first of all, one of the big things we do is we take one big step back at the start. It's that one big step, keeping ourselves at a distance. I finish up with one foot roughly in line with the toes, the front foot roughly in line with the toes of the back foot. I bend both of my knees and roll my hips forwards, which helps me. Bending my knees helps me make sure that I'm stable, helps me make sure my center of gravity is low, but most importantly, it ensures that I'm ready to spring, ready to react, and ready to move. I want to have my hands out here, not completely locked in straight, but just off bent. Let me just quickly run through that again. When I do this, my hands are the first thing to move. So the hands come up as I step back and as I keep myself away from my assailant. Good. Okay. So one of the key elements to how this works is obviously in keeping your assailant at a distance. It's super important that my hands form this W shape, which keeps my elbows in. If I have my hands like this, my elbows come out. I want to have my elbows in, which will mean that I will block stronger if I need to block, and also too from here I might have my hands flaring out. If I need to strike, I could just strike straight through. But the most important thing is holding my hands at throat height means that my opponent won't get close. So if I hold my hands here at throat height, he's unlikely to want to have my hands around his neck in a confrontation. So usually the opponent will stop a little bit shorter than that. And now, if he attacks me, I can see that coming from a distance away. If I was here, it's a lot harder. Again, if he punched fast, boom, it's a lot harder. I'm a lot more off balance. I've got a much worse flinch reaction to move away from him, and I'm compromising my posture. Here, from a distance, and he attacks me, I've got a lot more time to react to his attack. One of the other key elements of the fence is I don't want to look aggressive when I'm forming my fence. If I step back too deep, if I make sudden movements, or if I move back, if I move into my stance first, all of those things can make me look aggressive. Let me demonstrate. If I form too deep a stance, I begin to look aggressive, and I look aggressive, I'm contributing to the aggressive energy in the confrontation, which will escalate the situation with the assailant. If I move my legs and form my stance first, without my hands, again, I can begin to look aggressive. But if I raise my hands, as I'm raising my hands, I draw my assailant's attention to my hands, and I can form my stance while they're focused on my upper body, and particularly my hands moving.